Hello everyone, Loaded Buggy here, and today we're doing something a little bit different. It is a Call of Duty commentary, but it's on the more casual side. We're just doing something for the fun of the game. We're going to be talking about the M16 today in great detail, and by in great detail I mean I'm just going to yap off the top of my head talking about the M16 here. We're going to go through 4 different Call of Duties from the golden age of Call of Duty and talk about the M16 and just some memories that I have, the good, the bad, the ugly, just how great and bad the M16 has been throughout the years, starting with Call of Duty 4. This is where it all started for me. I feel like I've beat this horse dead I don't know how many times, but Call of Duty 4 is where it started for me, and it's where it started for the M16 as well. And that's just a beautiful matrimony, if you ask me. The M16 is a gun that has had some really high highs and had some really low lows, and the highs started with Call of Duty 4. This is one of the best weapons in the game, as everyone knows. And by the way, I have Modern Warfare Remastered gameplay for you, not the OG Call of Duty 4. Couldn't find a match whenever I was trying to get a gameplay on the OG Call of Duty 4, so I had to substitute here with some Modern Warfare Remastered, but that's just fine. This game is good fun too. But anyway, the M16 in this game, everyone knows that it is I almost want to say overpowered, but it's not quite overpowered. If you know how to position yourself, it really can't be beat in terms of the long range. But at the same time, if you're in the medium to short range and you don't have like steady aim or just great accuracy or the jump on your opponent, the AK-74U can outclass you, the P90, the MP5, the AK-47, the M4. They can outclass you in the close range. Just being automatic weapons, they have the advantage there. But this gun, it almost couldn't be beat. If you could stay in the medium to long range, you could get one burst galore. You could just pinpoint accuracy. If your accuracy was on with the M16, it was pretty much a wrap. And that's what it felt like here during this gameplay. It was a really, really fun gameplay. I love playing Call of Duty 4. I love using the M16. It's where it all started for me. It was the gun that I used the most in this game. It was my favorite class. I would use it in my favorite class in the game. It was actually the M16 with the ACOG, and looking back, it wasn't my best work, but it was still really fun to use. It was the first gun that I had got Blue Tiger camo on and then Red Tiger camo on using that same ACOG sight, and then I foolishly prestiged and lost all of my progress. But that's okay. I digress. But I still love using this gun, even though I no longer use the ACOG setup on it. I use the red dot just because I've changed as a player. And speaking of being a player that has changed and evolved, this gun, it changed me as a player, meaning that because its strong suit is the medium to long range, it taught me how to kind of post up, just like what you're seeing right in front of you. It taught me how to post up, not necessarily camp, but implement the CNANR strategy to post up and parole. And I carried that strategy all the way over to Modern Warfare 2 here whenever I adopted the M16 in this game as well. I used the M16 a little bit less in this game in comparison to the FAMAS, which is my favorite weapon in the game, but I love the M16 just the same. And I was able to implement the same strategies in this game as I did in Call of Duty 4, which is the CNANR's strategy of find an area and parole that area and just try to control it as best as you can, not necessarily camping and pinching your tents, pitching? I don't think there's an N in there. Pitching your tents in a corner. I try not to do that, but I do try to parole different areas using this weapon because it just kind of gives you if you use that strategy, even without the M16, if you just use that strategy in general, it's a very easy strategy to be successful with because it gives you the element of surprise, not being stuck in a corner, but at the same time, it allows you to not have to worry about rushing here and dying on the rush. And the M16 in this game is a little bit less powerful than the FAMAS, and certainly less powerful than it was in Call of Duty 4, but it's still highly usable. You can still get a lot of one bursts with this gun if you're accurate, and it's still really fun to use. I would say like my only complaint with the Modern Warfare 2 M16 is the sound profile of this gun just isn't quite as satisfying to me. I don't really know how to explain it, but it almost sounds a little bit plasticky whenever you're shooting it. It's strange. It doesn't have the same oomph that the Call of Duty 4 M16 had, and I still used this gun a ton. I love burst weapons in Call of Duty games, in the Golden Age especially. But there was just something about the sound of the M16 in MW2 that wasn't quite as satisfying or good in my eyes as it was in Call of Duty 4 or even the next game, Black Ops 1. But it was still a really fun gun to use, very powerful gun. If you could stay in the medium to long range, again, just like Call of Duty 4, you could really, really excel. And that leads us to our next game, which has the opposite of MW2 in terms of the sound profile. Black Ops 1 here. I think the M16 in this game sounds the best it has ever sounded. I don't know what it is about the M16 in this game. It's not the best weapon, but again, if you use the same strategy you use in every other Call of Duty, posting up in the medium range, you can have great success and great fun with the M16, but there's nothing like the sound. Just the chunkiness, the deep sound whenever you are unloading your clip, it's just, there's nothing like it. In fact, I'll be quiet here for a second so you can hear it. Oh, absolutely gorgeous. It's such a satisfying, just whenever you shoot it and then you get the hit markers, there's nothing like the M16 in Black Ops 1. And again, it's a little bit less powerful than it had been in previous Call of Duties. I think they were scared to make this a one-burst machine like it was in previous Call of Duties. They didn't want it to be overpowered. Black Ops 1 is such a balanced game that they succeeded in that venture. This gun is pretty balanced, and it certainly will not outdo a FAMAS, an AUG, an AK-74U in the short to medium range, but doing my old Wings of Redemption impression here, camping behind an air condition, I can have great success using the M16 on pretty much any medium to long size map. And if I'm playing some real goobers, I can have success on a map like Firing Range or Nuketown as well. But by the way, this sweet sequence here is just delicious. This is prime M16. But the M16 in this game, I wouldn't say it's like my most used weapon. I bet you could probably check my combat record and see where it falls. But it's one that I've come to appreciate a lot more as the game has gotten older. And yeah, it's just been really fun to use. It was, again, it was the weapon that I was playing with just because I happened to prestige on Black Ops 1 here. More on that later. I got a video coming out talking about that in the next couple weeks. But yeah, I was using this gun just because it was one of the few guns that I had access to, and getting kills like that, getting those just satisfying 3-round bursts all hitting the enemy, it's one of the most satisfying M16s in Call of Duty history. It really is. And this gun, again, it's outclassed in many different areas, but it's still really fun to use. When your shot is on, it's just, there's nothing like using the M16 here. It's one of my favorite versions of the M16, even though I know it's not nearly as powerful as many of the other guns. I've always had a thing for burst fire guns. It's probably just because I started out using burst fire guns in Call of Duty 4 and then carried that through onto MW2, and I've just always had an attachment to burst fire guns. So that's Black Ops 1 for you. It's a great M16, really fun to use if you get in a good situation where you can find some success with it. And that leads us to probably the weakest M16 of the bunch here in Modern Warfare 3 2011. This is a game where everything has the syndrome effect, kind of like MW2, to a lesser degree in this game, to be fair. The syndrome effect meaning that when everything's super, nothing is. But the M16 is kind of an exception to the rule, and there's actually a couple guns in this game that are an exception to the rule, which is why I say, to a lesser degree in MW3 than MW2, is everything super. There are some guns in this game that are absolutely bonkers good, like the MP7 and the ACR that you just saw, as well as the Type 95 if you have a 4-bar connection. But that's just the thing with the M16 in this game. It's outclassed by the Type 95 in pretty much every way. I feel like the hit detection with the Type 95 is more precise. I feel like the fire rate even might be a little bit faster. There's just, the Type 95 is the FAMAS of this game, and I used the mess out of the Type 95. But similar to Black Ops 1, as the game got older and I came back to it after its prime, I grew to love the M16, and now I have this sort of attachment to this gun, especially here on Village. Every time I play Village, I pull out a burst fire weapon. There's nothing better. And the M16 in this game, again, I think it's just outclassed by pretty much everything. It really is. But if you can find a situation where you can post up like this, you can have a really good time using this gun. The setup I always use, and it's the only setup that I have been able to use that I've found consistent success with this weapon, is the red dot sight here, as well as the rapid fire attachment. Without rapid fire, this gun is a much slower beast, and it's not nearly as competitive of a weapon without the rapid fire attachment. So if you are going to try to use the M16 in this game, I'm talking to you like this freaking prime MW3. It's just, this game's so old. And look at this death, by the way. Look at this goober. I didn't even know. I couldn't even see him. It took me 3 times rewatching that clip to see him. Anyway, I think this is probably the weakest version of the M16, but that being said, it's still a really great and really fun weapon to use. Whenever you can have a good time and find success using the M16 in this game, it's still really great fun. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. It's a little bit something a little bit different. I just kind of want to reminisce on one of my favorite weapons, if not my favorite weapon in Call of Duty history, the amazing M16. Bye now.